Well done to the worship team. Let's give them a hand of thanks for leading us. Wonderful. I am going to be heading to the U.S. tomorrow. I'm going to be speaking at a church retreat. But before I speak at this church retreat, I'm going to visit my family, my mom and my daughter and sisters, for a few days in Southern California. The retreat's going to be in the Bay Area that I'm going to be speaking at. But before I do that, I'm going to see my daughter, my mom, have lunch with her, and be able to see my sisters. Now, understanding I grew up in a home with a mom and two sisters, no brother, my dad and me. And my two sisters are very close. My two sisters, they've always lived close together. They've always been best friends, always very close. They're also very girly, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but I don't know how else to describe it. So I'll try to give you an example. If you ask my sister, and some of you met my older sister Jane last summer, but if you ask either of my sister what is their favorite movie of all time, they will say The Notebook. The Notebook. So the person in The Notebook, if you've ever seen this movie, it's an American movie made, I don't know, over 10 years ago. It's with Ryan Gosling, Rachel McAdams, but it's a love story. And they told me when it first came out, they saw it like over 10 times, you know. Now, I've never seen any movie outside of Star Wars more than 10 times. And so they told me, on their 10th time, they said, Jason, you have to see this movie. And they said, I guarantee you, you will cry. You will cry when you see this movie. And so, you know, like last 2 summers ago, they had it on Netflix, and we watched it. And 15 minutes into the movie, I fell asleep. And so I'm like struggling to stay awake. And I'm like watching it, and they poke me, oh, you got to watch it. I'm like, okay, watching it. And at the end of the movie, I'm like, what? What was this movie about? But then beside me, my right and my left are my two sisters, and they're just crying, and they're like, you're so sad. It's such a wonderful, beautiful love story. And you know, they said it's their favorite movie of all time because it just moved them so emotionally because of just the love story. And I guess, you know, I finally have seen it all the way through without falling asleep, but I wasn't crying. I wasn't emotional. Now, some movies get me emotional. You know, I mean, Empire Strikes Back. When you see that movie and Darth Vader says, I am your father, I get choked up there sometimes, you know. I get emotional when I see that movie sometimes. But The Notebook or love stories, like, oh, it's like, it just doesn't move me. I think I share that because I think some of us, we have this desire to feel close to God, but sometimes we just don't feel that. We just don't feel close to God. Let me ask you a question. There's no, you know, this is not a trick question. I just want you to be honest and just. In your life, any time in your life, as far as you can remember, I remember when my earliest memory was when I was 4 years old, okay, all the way to today. Has there been any point in your life that you believe that you felt the presence of God? At any point. Can you raise your hand at any point in your life that you felt the presence of God? Okay, so most of you have. My question to you, my follow-up question is how do you know? How do you know? How do you know that you felt the presence of God? Were you overwhelmed with emotions? Did you have just this feeling of peace? Sometimes I have. Sometimes I have. Yes, the presence of God can move you emotionally. But for some people, so can the Notebook. So can a movie, right? Or a nice video can really move you emotionally. The presence of God can also give us a feeling of peace. Like really, in the midst of chaos and in the midst of a very stressful situation, God's presence can really give you a sense of peace. But so can, for me, a very nice vanilla milkshake or a very warm brownie with ice cream on it. When I'm eating like really good vanilla milkshake and a warm brownie, oh man, it is very peaceful. So my question is, how do you know that you feel the presence of God? And if you don't, whose fault is it? Is it God's fault? Like even now, some of you feel the presence of God and some of you don't. Is it God's fault? Like, I'm going to give that person feeling the presence of God, but not that person. Is it God's fault? Is it your fault? Is it the worship team's fault? It was like some people say, the music, it was too loud. Some of you, the music was just too soft. Or, and so whose fault is it? Well, if you're struggling with this question of what do I do if I don't feel the presence of God, what do you do about it? What do you do about it? I wanted to share this story since I have a little time. There was a person in our church. She attended our Alpha class or Alpha course many years ago, not recently, but many years ago, and I got a chance to know her at the Alpha retreat that they have every year or twice a year. And I got a chance to talk with her a little bit. I asked her, what is it that made you want to go to Alpha? And she actually said her father passed away like a year ago. And so she's been feeling very down and very even borderline depressed. And I told her about our Stephen ministry, and she agreed to meet with a Stephen minister. But she said that she looked at Alpha because in Alpha, and also she came to church. She would come to TEF as well. And she would just watch people just expressing worship and just feeling very moved and just very close with God, but she didn't feel God. And I remember she said, Jason, I really want to believe and feel God, but I don't feel anything. Can you help me? And it was such an earnestness. She was so transparent. And I can tell her, it wasn't fake. It wasn't she was trying to pretend. She really, really wanted to feel the presence of God, but she felt nothing. Well, maybe some of you can relate. I know I have at times. I felt that way. And I want to say that if you're feeling that way, or have felt that way, or will feel that way, like I don't feel the presence of God, first of all, you're not alone. In the Bible, we see David. David, who was, the Bible describes him as a man after God's own heart.